Part 37. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 361. After 3 days away, the crew of Empress Yuan Zhao is as busy as ever. Zhang Lingzi rushed to the set from Z1 early in the morning and saw Lu Zhenzhen waiting at the door of the lounge. As soon as she walked over, the girl turned around and looked her over. Zhang Lingzi was confused by her and couldn't help but asked in a funny way, "What's going on?" "No, it's nothing," seeing that Sister Zixi's face was radiant and there was no sign of any inconvenience in her legs or feet. Lu Zhenzhen waved her hands hurriedly, and then handed over the notice she had prepared. "Sister Zixi, this is there are 9 scenes to be filmed today, 7 literary scenes and 2 martial arts scenes." After taking it, Zhang Lingzi looked directly at the bottom of the schedule column on the notice sheet. If the shooting goes well, the last scene will be filmed before 6 o'clock in the evening. It may not necessarily end earlier if the efficiency is higher. Don't delay the recognition party in the evening. Just then, I walked into the lounge and read the notice carefully. While watching, I started to think about how to act. After all, there are some differences between filming and real-life experiences. It is less real and more artistic. She was actually very lucky that this was her first film in this world. The filming process was easy enough, and she also took the opportunity to learn a lot of filming skills. When I saw Weia being used in the fight scene, I subconsciously sighed, today's fight scene looks a bit intense. Lu Zhenzhen, who was following behind, couldn't help but ask silently in his mind when he heard the sound, can it be more intense than the fight scene last night? Asterisk. Shiman chatted with director Wei about the scene to be filmed today, and was about to elicit what she really wanted to say, when she saw him suddenly turning his head to look behind her and raising his hand to wave. His expression paused slightly, and he also turned to look past. As expected, it was Zhang Lingzi who came. "I asked for leave for 3 days in a row, but I came quite early." She suppressed her dissatisfaction at being interrupted, hesitated for a moment, and still sat still. "Director Wei, teacher Shi. Sit down." Wei Xiao pointed to the empty stool next to Shiman. "How was the recording of the show?" Zhang Lingzi lifted up the hem of her dragon robe and costume. Even though she was sitting on an ordinary plastic stool, it felt like she was sitting on a dragon chair carved with dragons and phoenixes. She replied, "It went well." "That's good. Now you have to calm down before returning to the set. There are not many scenes arranged for you today. You need to get used to it first. If an actor's performance is too curly during filming, then he, as a director, will have to become less curly." "Thank you, Director Wei, for thinking about me." Zhang Lingzi accepted the consideration with a smile. "I have one more thing to tell you, please let her know. The kid also sent me a message." Wei Xiao smiled and shook the phone in his hand. "It's okay, I'm just a little late." Her character doesn't have much role to play, and there aren't many scenes that need to be reshot. As long as it can be filmed before school starts. He is willing to be more tolerant towards children who study well. Not to mention that the little girl is smart, sensible, and polite. Shiman sat quietly and listened to the two talking, maintaining a suitable smile, as if she didn't mind being robbed of the limelight of talking to the director. Her eyes fell on the side of Zhang Lingzi's face. When she spoke again, she seemed casual, but there was a thin knife hidden in the gentle tone. "I heard about a hot search about you, Xiao 11, yesterday, saying that you are in a relationship with Jing Huai, a male artist from the same company. Is this, really or not?" Zhang Lingzi turned around and met Shiman's eyes that seemed to be really curious. She smiled slightly in return, her disdain for this matter clearly shown in her eyes. "Teacher Shi, this news is lagging behind. A lot of clarifying post should be posted. It has almost spread all over the internet." I didn't expect to hear this question from Teacher Shi again. "Yes, really." Shiman raised her hand and touched her fixed temples to cover up her embarrassment. I've been a little busy these past 2 days, so I didn't pay much attention to the follow-up. Teacher, she's role should be finished soon, right? Zhang Lingzi weighed the script that had been shot for most of the time. I guess I will be able to rest after a few days of busy work. Looking at the smile on Zhang Lingzi's face, Shiman felt that she was not comforted at all. Is this a satire that she doesn't have many roles and has nothing to do, or is it a satire that she is just a third-string actress? She really couldn't refute it, because it was all true. Suddenly he felt like he was on pins and needles. Absolutely, what about that, Director Wei? You and Xiao 11 continue to chat, I'll go to the theater first. An unknown person left and sat quietly trying to find a sense of presence. Zhang Lingzi suddenly felt that she could breathe freely. After a while, I looked into Director Wei's eyes that saw everything. You don't mind if I send Teacher Shi away, do you? Wei Xiao couldn't help laughing twice because of her direct words. She lowered her voice and said, I don't mind. I have to thank you. Shiman didn't just come over to chat with him about the drama. As Zhang Lingzi said just now, the filming of the scene is almost finished, so what else is there to talk about? This man is just a drunkard who doesn't care about drinking. I don't know where he found out that he had a good relationship with Shi Chenggrui in private, so he tried to use him to get through Shi Chengrui's relationship. Otherwise, when he saw Zhang Lingzi coming this way, he waved before she even got close, in order to interrupt what Shiman wanted to say. I was on the phone with Mr. Shi last night. Why did he say that Mr. Shen also went to the program you recorded? Wei Xiao felt a bit resentful when he asked this. If he wanted to ask who among the crew was the most willful, it would not be him as the director, but his own leading actor. From the very beginning, he didn't participate in script readings or training, to when the shooting officially started and he didn't join the crew. Even the notice gave him a timetable, and he would arrange the scenes for the male lead according to this timetable. It is the only time since he became a director that he can achieve this level of success in filming. If this person hadn't brought to life the amazingly talented Prime Minister Shen in history, he would have complained a lot. Zhang Lingzi spread her hands towards him. I didn't know about it until I got to the program set. So there was absolutely no collusion in advance to appear on the show together, and if you have any grudges, don't turn on her. You too. Wei Xiao sighed, not knowing what to say. Who made these two people his treasures now? When Su Ling'an and Gao Lan rushed to the crew, Zhang Lingzi was already filming. Lu Zhengzheng took over the important task of helping to take care of the elders, and Su Ling'an rushed to the dressing room to do makeup and change clothes. After Zhang Lingzi successfully finished filming a scene, she walked towards the old man and said, "Grandma." Gao Lan looked at the little girl who walked up to her, nodded with a smile, and praised, "Xiao 11's acting is really good. If you don't do well in your true role again, you should find a piece of tofu to bump into." Zhang Lingzi took a sip from the water glass handed over by Lu Zhengzheng. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught sight of Su Ling'an, who had changed into costumes and returned to the set. An's acting skills are also very good now. She will have a role later. Grandma should take a good look. Gao Lan nodded and reached out to hold Zhang Lingzi's arm. "Xiao 11, I asked An about that girl yesterday. You know her temperament, so you know what to say. You have also seen An's grandfather with your own eyes. In your opinion, what about other people? Like? She has no idea about great calligraphers and painters, but she also knows that such people are beyond the reach of a family like hers, even if they stand on tiptoes and jump as hard as they can. Who would have thought that one day we would actually be related?" Thinking of the meeting that was going to happen in the evening, she couldn't even try to deceive herself that she wasn't nervous. Zhang Lingzi felt the uneasiness of the old man in front of her through the hand on her wrist. "Don't worry, although Mr. Zhang seems to have a bad temper, he is actually an outspoken character. After all, he has reached his current status. He is not afraid of offending anyone and no one dares to offend him, but he is still very gentle to Anan. You have raised Anan so well since he was a child, and he is only grateful to you. As for the rest of the Zhang family, Mr. Zhang will be there to hold them down, no matter what they think in their hearts, they will definitely be polite in person. That's good, Gao Lan was half relieved. As for the other half, it depends on the official meeting in the evening. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 362. The filming continued until lunch on the set, when Zhang Lingzi and Su Lingyan, who were filming in two separate groups, had a chance to talk together. Zhang Lingzi had already watched the replay at director Wei's place. She waited for someone to run over with her skirt in hand and patted her shoulders approvingly. The two scenes in the morning were both performed very well. I heard director Wei said that I should do it again. She is really happy and relieved that she can still perform so steadily even though she has a lot of things on her mind. Who said that shy and introverted children can't withstand big things? She felt that the more they encountered such big things, the more calm they would be. Su Lingyan pursed her lips shyly after being praised. Sister, if you praise me again, I won't be able to help but be proud. You can be proud, Aranan is an outstanding little girl. Gao Lan stood aside but smiled silently. She could tell that Xiao 11 had been doing her best to help Anan build up her self-confidence. When you meet in the evening, facing such a wealthy and high-status family, you must not have stage fright in this first meeting. The more generous you are, the more the other person will look at you. Until Lu Zhengzheng trotted over with Zhang Lingzi's mobile phone. Sister Zixi, I just saw a message from Mr. Shen on the phone. Zhang Lingzi took the phone and said, you go back to the lounge to eat first. Sister, aren't you going? Lu Zhengzheng pulled Su Lingyan's arm and winked at her. Let's go first. Su Lingyan. She seemed to understand. So I didn't ask any more questions and obediently took my grandma to eat with me. Zhang Lingzi took her mobile phone and walked to the shade of a tree in the corner of the studio. She looked around and saw that there was no one around, and then clicked on a long voice message. Intermittent and noisy voices suddenly came from the mobile phone microphone. After listening to it twice in a row, she could barely recognize what these voices said. Calculating that she and Shen Yunqing had been waiting for almost a day and a night, they finally got the results of Jing Huai's blood test from the hospital. Turn off the audio, the next text message is from Shen Yunqing. The audio is not very clear, but from the excitement in Jing Huai's voice, we can judge that the test results should have found some abnormality. My people are trying to see if they can make a copy of the complete test report and send it over. Zhang Lingzi typed reply, Jing Huai will most likely go to Su Qingmei. Shen Yunqing, I also speculated that my people will follow him well. Let your people be careful, we don't know yet if Su Qingmei has any other weird things in her hands. Good. After exchanging the current findings and countermeasures, Zhang Lingzi went back to the lounge to finish lunch, then lay on the lunch chair with squinted eyes and rested for more than 10 minutes. Before going out to continue filming the afternoon scene, she asked Lu Zhengzheng for her mobile phone. Unlock took a look. There is really one more unread message. I got the report and passed it on to Lu Ye for reading. Lu Ye said that it was basically consistent with what he detected. The difference was that the activity of that substance was higher. It should be because fresh blood was directly extracted for testing. In addition, Jing Huai ran out of the hospital while his agent and assistant were away. Seeing Zhang Lingzi here. Looks like he is completely out of control. When she handed the phone back to Lu Zhengzheng, she said in passing, keep an eye on the crew of The Legend of the City Next Door to see if Su Qingmei returns to the crew to film. There should be no chance, but maybe there is a possibility. After all, as a heroine, you can't be absent from the crew all the time. Even if you are an A-list actress, you won't be so famous. Su Qingmei's assistant also advised Su Qingmei, who was unwilling to go out for some reason. Early in the morning, she sent the notice from The Legend of the Allure to others, and reminded her to drive a nanny van to pick her up later. As a result, as soon as the message was sent, she received a reply from Su Qingmei. Just 4 words: headache that won't go away. The assistant not only had a headache but also a big headache when he saw these 4 words. He tried his best to persuade me and finally got a solution that was not even a solution. Get on the stand-in. As for some shots that require frontal faces, then cut out the images later. The director of The Legend of the Fallen City almost vomited blood after receiving such a reply. Thinking back to how excited and ambitious he was when he received the offer from Su Qingmei to play his heroine, now he wants to slap himself in the mouth. Why didn't he think of checking out Su Qingmei's work attitude before signing someone? How could he just be greedy for this woman's fame? But now that more than half of the filming has been completed, it is too late to regret it. If you can't afford to spend money on substitutions and shooting, then you can only compromise. Su Qingmei suddenly stopped filming and went to record the show, and Zhang Ziyu could only spend 3 boring days on the set. Who makes almost all of her scenes be opposite to the heroine. Now that she finally returned, Zhang Ziyu put on her makeup with great anticipation and let Xiao Tao push her to the set, where she saw that the person who acted opposite her was Su Qingmei's stand-in. As for Su Qingmei herself, there is not even a shadow of a ghost. This woman even put several layers of powder on her face, but it couldn't block the livid color appearing on her face. Just when Zhang Lingzi was holding a wire and holding a long sword and fighting with people in front of the camera, Zhang Ziyu was facing Su Qingmei's stand-in with a green face and suppressing the resentment in his heart while speaking his lines. On the other side, Jing Huai, who quietly escaped from the hospital, also stumbled to Su Qingmei's residence. The reason why I say he stumbled is because when he left the hospital, he didn't even have time to change into the hospital gown. There was still some blood seeping from the arm of the hospital gown. After being refused by several taxis at the entrance of the hospital, he finally got into a black car that was brave enough to carry people. It wasn't until he got into the car that he remembered that he didn't have a mobile phone or cash. When he arrived at the destination and faced the unkind look from the driver of the black car, Jing Huai had no choice but to grit his teeth and take off the watch on his wrist to pay for the fare. But he will definitely not be able to find Su Qingmei's person. After all, the villa he came to could only be regarded as a place where Su Qingmei occasionally let people come over to relax with her. After ringing the doorbell for nearly 10 minutes and still not hearing any movement, Jing Huai finally accepted this reality. Falling to the ground slumped. He only knew a place like this. Where else could he go to find someone? By the way, the crew. Thinking about the special substance in the blood that the doctor told him about in the test results, compared with his life, he no longer cares about any other threats. But when he stood up and prepared to set off, he realized a serious problem. This place is remote, almost no taxis come here to pick up guests, and the only watch he has on him has been used to pay the fare. In a blind spot not far behind Jing Huai, a young man with a black baseball cap covering most of his face wrote down the house number of the villa where Jing Huai rang the doorbell, tapped the headphones in his ears, and asked for instructions. "Mr. The tracking subject seems to be about to faint. Do you want to help?" The 3 underground floors of Yongzi building. Shen Yunqing looked at the little red dot displayed on one of the computers in front of him. After listening to the young man's request, he hummed softly, "By the way, find a way to extract some blood from the wound. Be careful not to hurt yourself in the process." Clear. After he finished his instructions, the unshaven young man sitting in front of the computer turned back and looked at him. "Boss, you have been assigned more and more private jobs recently, so I need to pay more. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 363. Even in the daytime, the basement of the villa is as dark as an ancient tomb. Su Qingmei, who would rather have a stunt double help her in filming but was determined not to leave home, was called down. "Are you going to hide like this?" Hearing the slightly dissatisfied voice above her head, Su Qingmei lowered her head and slandered silently. "Others will research the corresponding antidote after studying poisons. But it's better for you, just ignore the thing after researching it, and don't care what the consequences of that thing will be." The face was still respectful and he replied, "I saw the news on the internet that Jing Huai went to the hospital. He may have noticed something abnormal about the wound, and he is probably looking for me now." She responded with a chuckle, "Then what do you have to be afraid of? That thing was originally used to control people. Wasn't he your guest before? Just keep using it, right? With my medicine, I can be more obedient and cooperative." "Is he considered a guest?" Su Qingmei said with a bit of disdain. "At most it's just a gadget, let alone that I'm tired of playing with this gadget now and plan to draw a clear line." "Sir, if the medicine enters the wound, is there really nothing you can do?" Su Qingmei was feeling annoyed as she kept holding it in at home. She wanted to stand radiantly in front of everyone and be sought after by thousands of people, but just because of one person, Jing Huai, "Why are you so bored at home growing mushrooms?" Thinking of the method of use that the adults mentioned when it was delivered to her, it was not enough to just find a way to deliver it to the target's wound. The medicine had to be activated by the smell she carried. This was also the reason why she scratched Jing Huai's back. There was no other reason to leave in a hurry. She was afraid that if he was activated and completely bound, she had no intention of keeping Jing Huai by her side forever. It was her style to abandon Jing Huai when she got tired of it. Without activation, those little things that are invisible to the naked eye will only multiply slowly in the blood, and will have little impact on their owners. At most, they will often suffer from anemia symptoms. Thinking of this, a glimmer of hope ignited in her heart. If I never come into contact with him, those things will never be activated. Will they slowly decompose and disappear? No, the adult in front of her said in a casual tone, but poured cold water on her mercilessly. "How could the vitality of the medicine coming out of my hand be so fragile? I advise you to call someone as soon as possible to solve the problem. If you don't go out for this matter, who will arrange my entry into the entertainment industry? Don't delay my debut." Su Qingmei held back her speechless expression. At this moment, she really doubted that this person really wanted to get rid of Zhang Lingzi, instead of coming to the entertainment industry to steal everyone's jobs. At the same time, I couldn't help but feel entangled in my heart. Now the fastest and most convenient solution is undoubtedly to bring Jing Huai back to her. Once those things are activated, Jing Huai will definitely be the most obedient pet around her. But she still misses Shen Yunqing. If only she had gotten it, she might not think about it so much. Just because I have never gotten it, I am even more unwilling to do so. "Sir, once the medicine is used, can it really only target one person?" As soon as she finished speaking, Su Qingmei was looked at with a half smile. "You are greedy, but be careful not to be greedy enough. With your qualifications, it is okay to control one person, but it is not easy to control two at the same time. If you are not careful, but it will be retaliated by your own pets. In short, you have to weigh it yourself. Please allow me to think about it again. As soon as possible, you know, I only have so much patience." Coming up from the basement, the word qualification was still echoing in Su Qingmei's mind, and the expression on her face turned ferocious unknowingly. This is not the first time that she has been told that her qualifications are poor in person. When she first met an adult, more than 10 years ago, she was told that her qualifications were poor. Fortunately, she was ruthless enough, so she was reluctantly brought in that organization that I still haven't been able to figure out how deep it is. More than 10 years have passed, and she has watched helplessly as her face has remained the same for 10 years. On the contrary, No matter how hard she tried to maintain it, she could not withstand the passage of time, because she was limited by her qualifications. Now I want to use her qualifications to make her give up. Why have she always been so unfavorable? Qualifications, qualifications, qualifications can explain everything. After all, she has won the Best Actress trophy. A rebellious mentality suddenly emerged, and this time, she refused to believe in evil. Asterisk. The gate of the villa. Li Yuan and his assistant arrived in time before the young man in the baseball cap pretended to be a kind passerby and was about to help the ashen-faced Jing Huai into the car. The reason why I was able to find someone so quickly this time was thanks to Jing Huai's assistant. After learning that Jing Huai sneaked out of the hospital while both of them were away from the ward, Li Yuan couldn't help but curse and planned to call the police privately. However, the assistant suddenly remembered the conversation between him and Jing Huai last night and guessed that Jing Huai is likely to go to Su Qingmei. The two of them immediately hurried and saw Jing Huai still wearing a hospital gown outside the gate of the villa, and they were relieved. Brother Huai. The young man in the baseball cap held Jing Hui's arm for a moment, then raised his head and glanced at the two people who got out of the car and ran towards the side. He only had time to gently press the catheter in his hand to the wound on Jing Hui's arm. By the time Li Yuan and his assistant ran up to him, the catheter in his hand had already disappeared, and he greeted the two of them with surprise on his face. "Are you family members of this gentleman? I happened to pass by and saw him collapsed at the door of the villa. I fainted and was about to send him to the hospital." The young man has a cute baby face and looks approachable. Although the brand of his clothes cannot be seen, the cut and texture are very good, which is in line with the identity of the owner who lives in this villa area. Even though Li Yuan glanced at him, he did not doubt his words at all, and said gratefully, "Yes, this is me, my brother. Thank you for your help." The young man let go of his hand and smiled with two dimples. "You're welcome." Jing Huai couldn't help but glare at the assistant who was supporting him, knowing that his escape plan had failed. He turned his head and glanced at the villa behind him, still a little reluctant. "Su." The next second, his mouth was covered. "Brother Huai, after you did this, Sister Wen was almost mad at you, and even I was scolded. Can we calm down for a while?" The young man watched the car take people away. After returning to his car, he took out the catheter and checked the blood collected inside, then put it into a sealed bag and put it away. Then he clicked on the earphone and started to report, "Sir, Jing Hui's agent, the people and assistants came over and took the person away, but I had already collected the blood. Go back to the hospital and continue monitoring. Huza will give him the blood on the way to the hospital." "Yes." After giving the instructions, Shen Yunqing closed his eyes, frowned and reviewed in detail the scene of the accident on the stage, especially the change in Su Qingmei's expression when she scratched Jing Huai's arm. It was obviously a deliberate plan, but why did he look so panicked after he found out that he had hurt the wrong person? If she feels guilty about Jing Huai being accidentally injured, then what Su Qingmei needs to do next is to make amends instead of leaving in a hurry. Unless Su Qingmei wants to see that the substance only affects him. In other words, we only plan to target him. It would have been bad if it had been anyone else, or Su Qingmei didn't want to see unacceptable results. What exactly will it do? Now it seems that the substance has no other side effects except that the wound cannot be healed. Jing Huai's confused appearance now is simply because he didn't sleep all night and was frightened by himself. Fortunately, I now have another tube of blood. I just hope that Lu Ye can detect more things. The money has arrived, thank you boss. A hoarse and excited voice reached his ears, interrupting Shen Yunqing's thoughts. He looked over with a faint look. Have you found Su Qingmei's residence? The young man who was counting the balance of his bonus excitedly suddenly lost his face. No, boss, can you give me some more time? He seemed to be happy a little too early. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, X. Press 11. Chapter 364. Even Jing Huai himself didn't notice that a tube of blood was quietly stolen by a passerby who was kindly helping, let alone his assistant and Li Yuan. The crazy trio returned to the hospital. As soon as they entered the ward, they were greeted by the doctor's somewhat solemn expression. The three of them felt their hearts tremble at the same time. "Doctor, doctor," Jing Huai couldn't help but tremble in his tone, with a glimmer of hope. "Come here, do you want to tell me that I got the wrong test report this morning? I'm here to suggest that you transfer to another hospital." The doctor shook his head and said in a deep voice, "After a meeting and discussion, we agreed that more sophisticated instruments are needed to detect the substances that were accidentally contaminated on your wound. I suggest that you be transferred to a more professional blood disease hospital. In addition, because of your status, there have been a lot of fans and paparazzi coming to our hospital in the past 2 days using the excuse of medical treatment. The hospital security can't stop them. Now it has seriously disturbed our doctors and nurses. We are working normally. Please go through the discharge procedures as soon as possible." When the doctor left, Jing Huai fell directly onto the hospital bed. What did that mean just now? Will I be killed by Su Qingmei? Even though I still can't believe that Su Qingmei can cause this situation just by scratching her own artist, but after listening to the doctor's words, and looking at Jing Huai's current look, it only took a day for him to torment himself to the point where he didn't recognize ghosts. Li Yuan also drummed in his heart. She finally brought Jing Huai to this point, and she is eagerly waiting for him to take a step forward and get promoted too, so that she can continue to suppress Tongyu and Zhang Lingzi to stand out in front of the boss. But if Jing Huai keeps going on like this, even if she doesn't want to give up the artist she finally brought out, the company won't show any mercy. Perhaps she will be kicked out of Shaw Brothers Entertainment along with Jing Huai. She will never accept this ending. "Didn't you add assistant Su Qingmei? Call me." She doesn't care about offending Su Qingmei now. She just wants to find someone to ask clearly what happened to the injury. "I called 3 times in a row and finally got through. It's not that I don't want to contact Sister Su, it's that without Sister Su's permission, even I can't see Sister Su's people." Li Yuan took a deep breath and said, "Then give me Mr. Su's current residence, and I will visit the head office in person, right?" "Sorry, this is strictly confidential. If I tell you, it will be more than just being fired." "Wait, Sister Su has contacted me, I have to hang up first." Asterisk. After an hour, Jing Huai followed Su Qingmei's instructions and took a taxi to come here alone. After getting off the car, he looked at the open door of the villa not far ahead, waiting for him to enter, and his heartbeat suddenly accelerated uncontrollably. But it was not because of excitement, but because I felt an inexplicable nervousness. Before, he didn't hesitate to sneak out of the hospital just to come here to ask Su Qingmei to question what she painted on her nails. But now that Su Qingmei took the initiative to contact him and asked him to come alone, he couldn't help but start to think about it more. She was accidentally hit before, and Su Qingmei's face changed drastically and she hurriedly left. Does this mean that Su Qingmei already knew what would happen after the wound was scratched by her own fingernail? Since you abandoned him and left in a hurry, why did you let him come back now? With Su Qingmei's nature, it is really hard for him to believe that this person would suddenly have a conscience. Then what's the purpose of calling her here? Furthermore, carrying around medicine that even the hospital can't find out what it is this woman really just a star in the entertainment industry? After entering this door, can he still come out intact? The more he couldn't control his guessing, the more he felt that the villa in front of him was more like a huge mouth that could eat people. Just waiting for him to walk in, he would be doomed. All the doubts that I had been too excited to think about when I came on the road suddenly turned into greater fears at this moment. Seeing that the car that brought him here was about to leave, he suddenly turned around and ran away. Compared to the wound on his arm, Su Qingmei, who was left with this wound at this moment, was undoubtedly more terrifying in his eyes. Su Qingmei was sitting in the living room of the villa, watching the surveillance displayed on the TV screen opposite and waiting for someone to come in. She was a little reluctant to this decision at first. After seeing Jing Huai under surveillance, he was stunned for some reason and suddenly turned around to leave. Her face turned dark. "You've come here, but you still want to leave?" Unable to remain reserved, Su Qingmei quickly stood up and chased him out. When Jing Huai stumbled to the car to open the car door, she reached out and covered his hand that was holding the car door. "Be good, come back with me." The voice that penetrated his ears was so gentle that it was unreasonable, but Jing Huai felt that the hairs all over his body stood on end. Subconsciously, he wanted to shake off the hand that fell on the back of his hand. Su Qingmei noticed his movement, her eyes dimmed suddenly, and she suddenly moved closer to the side of Jing Huai's cheek, and breathed out softly, "Be obedient." Jing Huai felt a charming fragrance penetrate into his nostrils as he breathed, and his struggling movements suddenly stopped. His brain that had just become clear became chaotic again, and he gave up the struggle unknowingly. "Are you leaving yet?" The driver in the front seat lowered the window and asked. Su Qingmei quickly turned her face away. She was in a hurry and didn't put on any disguise on her face, so she couldn't be seen. "I'm not leaving, master." Jing Huai had a flash of struggle in his eyes, but his hand was unable to loosen under Su Qingmei's control. The driver muttered, "The young couple had a quarrel. This is the first time I've seen the man run away from home. He leaves and comes back, and leaves again. It's really frustrating." Su Qingmei. She looked at Jing Huai, whose expression was a little numb, and was secretly frightened in her heart. This was just a slight stimulation with the smell, and it had the current effect. If it was completely activated. It's a pity that it was not the original plan. "Let's go, come back with me." Just in case something changed, Su Qingmei simply didn't let go of her hand and pulled Jing Huai, whose expression and movements became sluggish, into the villa door. As the door closed, the young man squatting on the nearby wall in a blind spot moved his hands and feet slightly, and jumped to the ground holding the cell phone that had just finished recording. After returning to the car, he played back the scene he had just captured. When Su Qingmei was holding Jing Huai's hand, he deliberately slowed it down until the two of them entered the door. There is an extra layer of thoughtfulness in his eyes. Then the video was sent out. The video was uploaded to Shen Yunqing's mobile phone. He directly put the video on his computer to watch it, so that he could see it more clearly. The bearded young man also quietly came over. After seeing that Su Qingmei just came closer and breathed at Jing Huai, Jing Huai's reaction changed from fierce resistance to compliance, and he suddenly took a breath. "Oh my God, this half-named Su, what kind of energy is this old lady blowing? It's so awesome." Shen Yunqing's eyes narrowed slightly. In his previous life, he had seen some poisons with strange uses, and there were a few poisons that could make traditional Chinese medicine practitioners obedient. However, even he had never heard of something like Su Qingmei that could take effect so quickly. It is probably related to the injury that Su Qingmei left on Jing Huai's arm. Thinking again that this man's target was him and he had attacked him twice, Prime Minister Shen, who had always been calm, couldn't help but break out a thin layer of sweat on his forehead at this moment. Jing Huai stayed in the villa for less than half an hour in total. After experimenting with the effect of the thing given by the adults on Jing Huai, Su Qingmei kicked him out. "I feel like it's quite easy to control myself. From now on, Jing Huai is completely under her control. She can hit him wherever she wants and is extremely obedient. This feeling of being completely in control of a person is indeed not bad." While enjoying this sense of accomplishment, Su Qingmei's ambition also quietly grew. It's not enough for Jing Huai, who just got the medicine by mistake. If she could use this method to control the one she was more optimistic about, the sense of accomplishment would definitely be greater than what she has now. As for the adults who say she is not qualified, how can she know if she doesn't give it a try? Anyway, she feels that she is doing well now. Besides, is what the Lord said necessarily correct? In short, Su King-mei, she is completely lost. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 365. Chapter 365, focus on the key points first, and wait for others. The afternoon filming went extremely smoothly. The guy who was filming the opposite scene with Zhang Lingzi and also the fighting scene almost burst into tears. If the two of them hadn't been holding realistic prop swords when filming, he really suspected that he would have died by the sword more than once. Okay, call it a day. Wei Xiao smiled and raised his hand to give an order, and the crew suddenly burst into cheers. Finishing work half an hour earlier than scheduled means that they can also get off work half an hour earlier. Who wouldn't be happy to get off work early? The actor who played opposite Zhang Lingzi listened to the cheers from all around and rubbed his still sore arm sadly. Very good, a world where he is the only injured person in the entire crew has been achieved. Go back to the dressing room to take off your makeup and change into your own clothes. It's exactly 6 o'clock. Zhang Lingzi walked up behind Su Ling'an, who was standing in front of the mirror, adjusting her clothes, and helped her straighten the messy hair on her temples. Perfect. Su Ling'an touched the skirt that her grandmother had made for her, looked into Zhang Lingzi's eyes through the mirror, took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Sister, let's go. She's ready. Seeing the two of them leaving, Lu Zhengzheng quickly put down her phone and stood up. Sister Zixi, I have already agreed with the driver to take you directly to the restaurant. Just contact him 10 minutes in advance after dinner. Zhang Lingzi nodded and took the phone. After unlocking it, she saw a several-minute video sent to her by Shen Yunqing, and her eyebrows furrowed. But it was too late to look at it, so she simply turned off the screen again. Farewell to Gao Lan, who was waiting outside. He saw a small bag in his hand. Grandma, what's this? It's the festival soon. I made some mooncakes at home last night, thinking that I can't go there empty-handed. This mooncake is also a good intention. Hearing this, Zhang Lingzi glanced at the small bag again, hoping that the Zhang family would sincerely accept this gift. The driver is already waiting outside. Grandma, Anan, let's go. The back seat was given to the grandson and grandson, and Zhang Lingzi went to sit in the passenger seat, just in time to watch the video Shen Yunqing sent her in the car. Just as he was about to put on his headphones, Su Ling'an's voice came from behind. Sister, do you remember brother Xiaoli? He is going too. Zhang Lingzi turned around and asked, where is he now? Where should we pick him up? Su Ling'an waved her hands hurriedly. No, 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 I gave brother Xiaoli the address. He said he can just go there by himself after work. She just felt that it was necessary to tell her sister in advance. He is still working in the previous restaurant. Well, his boss opened a new branch not long ago and sent him there as the sous chef. It means that he has done a good job and the boss appreciates it. However, after seeing the video that Shen Yunqing sent her, Zhang Lingzi's relaxed mood when chatting with Su Ling'an quickly disappeared. There are 2 videos in total. Su King-mei brought Jing Huai into the villa. Jing Huai came out of the villa alone. The video also thoughtfully added subtitles for her. It was only half an hour, and the person who went in and the person who came out were already 2 completely different people in her eyes. It looked very much like the poison-controlled puppets she had seen in her previous life. Like a walking zombie without a soul. She typed, is this being controlled? It's very possible, that's what I speculated as well. Su King-mei has clearly drawn a clear line with Jing Huai, so why would she suddenly bother to control him? I suspect it's medicine. The active substance Lu also detected in Jing Huai's blood may be the key to controlling people. Zhang Lingzi suddenly thought of Su King-mei's dirty paw that almost fell on Shen Yunqing yesterday. Looking at Jing Huai's current situation on the video, she almost couldn't restrain the murderous intention in her heart. In other words, Su Qingmei originally wanted to control her prime minister, but she temporarily disturbed him and accidentally injured him in Jing Huai, so he settled for the next best thing. But, the driver who was driving seriously in the driver's seat felt that the air around him suddenly became colder, and he almost stepped on the brakes. Zhang Lingzi turned her head and looked over. Drive well. Yes, I'm sorry, Teacher Zhang. So the business car drove as smoothly as ever on the next road. Thinking that Shen Yunqing was currently helping her monitor Su Qingmei's movements, Zhang Lingzi typed a reply uneasily, "You have to be careful, stay away from Su Qingmei, and don't let her touch a hair on your head. In addition, don't touch Jing Huai's blood. Remember, at present, what the active substance is has not been detected, and the scene in the villa cannot be monitored. It is not clear how Su Qingmei uses the active substance to control people. As the target that Su Qingmei originally planned to control, Shen Yunqing is now more dangerous than her. But it is impossible to stop in the face of danger. Now we can only face the danger." "Boss," the bearded young man looked at the man in front of him who was smiling at the mobile phone for some reason. He couldn't help but curiously approached him. "What are you looking at? You are smiling so dazzlingly." Shen Yunqing raised her hand to cover the phone screen before he came over. "Have you figured out what Su Qingmei did after she left the villa?" The bearded young man: "I was just about to report to you. When I chased me to a high-end residential area in the city, the signal inside was cut off. I strongly suspect that Su Qingmei used a shielding device. It was a high-intensity shielding device. It doesn't work for me. I don't know what big secrets she hides in her family, but she hides it so tightly. By the way, I also discovered that Miss Jiang's residence is not far from that residential area, just one street away." Shen Yunqing couldn't help but give him a cold look. "I'll report back later, remember to focus on the key points first." The bearded young man. When he returned to his pile of instruments, he patted his forehead, his eyes widened with a look of confusion on his face. He realized, the important point is Miss Jiang. Asterisk. A taxi stopped at the door of Lin Mansion's Imperial Kitchen. Su Lei got out of the car, straightened out the suit he had specially changed into, and then looked up at the restaurant sign, which was already softly lit. Simultaneously recited in my heart, "Good boy." Looking at this decoration, it is at least 10 blocks away from the splendid style that my boss likes. He took out his phone and looked at the location shared with Anan. It was still almost 2 kilometers away. As I walked to the door and waited, I couldn't help but click on my boss's profile picture and sent a message: "Brother, what do you think of Lin's royal chef?" The boss was probably busy at the moment, so he quickly responded to the message: "What's going on? It's hard to comment. This is an old-style private kitchen that has been passed down for hundreds of years. If I work for another 30 years, I will never be able to match it. What do you think? But why did you suddenly ask about the Lin family's imperial chef? I am going to brag to you, I came to this Lin's imperial kitchen to eat today. Real or false, it's just your kid's salary. If you go there to have a meal, you'll lose a month's salary. Hey, have you forgotten why I asked you for leave today? This is the wedding ceremony for my sister. You can choose to eat here. It seems that your sister's background is quite good. Anyway, you are not the protagonist today, so just concentrate on eating the food and see if you can get some snacks later." Su Lei couldn't help but turn his head and look at the restaurant door again after reading the news. He heard the girl Anan say that his grandfather was a calligrapher and painter, but he didn't understand and had no idea. It wasn't until he saw the restaurant where he ate that he had some understanding. Looks like he is quite wealthy. That's fine. Girl Anan has been living frugally with her grandmother since she was a child. She doesn't lack love but lacks nutrition. Now she can have a few more rich relatives to love her. It's good, it's really good. But this time when he looked over, he met eyes filled with dissatisfaction and disgust. "Where's the security guard? No one is allowed to hang around at the entrance of the restaurant. Do you want your wages to be deducted?" Sule. Handing around? This aunt, who is wearing a cheongsam and has a big string of pearls hanging around her neck, looks like a noble lady. Is she talking about him? At this moment, he felt deeply insulted by the suit he was wearing, which he had spent a huge sum of money to buy. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 366. Chapter 366, Embarrassment written all over the body. What are you looking at? Lin Yi couldn't help but turn sideways because of the direct gaze. I'm talking about you. Wearing an ill-fitting suit, with a crew cut that looks like he just came out of it, and scars on his face, he is either an idle gangster or a spirited guy who doesn't do anything good. Her restaurant would never receive such uncultured customers. Sule was puzzled. No, Auntie, who are you? I can't wait for you here. Who are you calling aunt? Lin Yi raised her delicate eyebrows uncontrollably. I am the boss. If I say no, I won't do it. Leave quickly. I don't know how I have the nerve to stand in front of our restaurant. She was already unhappy at being told by the old man to come out early and wait at the door. Now that she saw such a young man at the door who didn't look like a good person at first sight, Lin Yi felt particularly angry. Normally, she could calmly tell the security guards to chase people away, but now, she just wants to find someone to scold and vent her anger on. Sule kicked the little lion in front of him away, frowned and stood up. You are the boss here, you. Thinking that Anan, the girl, had mentioned to him that the restaurant where he ate was owned by her aunt, whom he had never met, Sule looked at it with more scrutiny. Anan, the aunt, looks down on him and the next best thing is. Anyway, he has been looked down upon many times, but not more than this one. But he doesn't seem to have a good temper, which is, not good. Seeing that this little gangster not only did not get scolded by him but instead walked closer and closer to him, Lin Yi quickly took 2 steps back with a stern expression. What are you doing? Stop, if you don't leave, I will call the security guard. Sule stopped 1 meter away from her. He wanted to say something but held back. I'm really waiting for this person. He hadn't noticed it before when he was squatting, but now he stood up and realized that this little gangster was taller than his own son. His muscles stretched the suit tightly. Lin Yi's arrogance was immediately extinguished. Then you go farther away, can't you wait any longer? Zhang Anfeng came out a few minutes late because his father left him to lecture his wife. He saw a tall young man standing in front of his wife. He quickly took a few steps and asked, what's going on? As soon as the support came, Lin Yi quickly took her husband's arm and said, honey, as soon as I came out, I saw this man squatting at the door. I was shocked. Sule. He looked at the person who had just come out, who seemed to be Uncle Anan. The words he was going to explain that he was Anan's brother were swallowed back. I want to see if this man has the same temper as his wife. Although Zhang Anfeng doesn't want to see the young man in front of him, at least he won't show it directly like his wife. Little brother, are you coming to my wife's restaurant to eat? Alone. I suggest you check the prices of the dishes at Lin's Royal Kitchen online first. Make a decision. Although his smile was a little fake, fortunately his tone was still polite. Sule nodded to show his understanding and patiently replied, I just explained it to your wife. I'm waiting for people here, and I said it twice. Oh, it's an appointment here. Before Zhang Anfeng finished speaking, he was interrupted by a shout from across the street. Brother Xiaoliai. Sule quickly turned around and saw Anan waving to him, as well as Grandma and Miss Zhang standing aside, and raised his hand in response. While waiting for the three people to cross the street, he looked back at the couple behind him and said, "Look, I'm really waiting for someone. This person isn't here. Brother Xiaoli, why are you here so early? Are you finished with the work in the store?" Su Lei touched Su Ling'an's head and said, "It's okay. I asked for leave from my boss. Why did you change into a suit, not to mention you are quite handsome?" "Yes, it's valuable, I bought it at a discount, but it's a bit tight, besides, today's occasion is not formal." After the brothers and sisters finished their familiar banter, Su Lei looked at Gao Lan and Zhang Lingzi again, and called out obediently, "Grandma." Miss Zhang and Feng and Lin Yi stood where they were, watching the three people who came over and now merged into four people. "Look at the pretty and well-behaved little girl who is definitely not 20 years old in a bright yellow dress, and the older girl next to her who is still dazzlingly beautiful even if she is just standing quietly. There is also a title, Miss Zhang, an old man who is called Grandma." A terrible guess suddenly appeared in the couple's minds. This shouldn't be the case, it's just. The next second, the gangster in front of him turned back, "By the way, Enan, these two are the owners of this restaurant." Meeting the eyes of the little girl named Enan, and thinking about what she had just said to her brother, Lin Yi felt her eyes go dark. Su Ling'an was the first to speak, "Hello." This sound finally brought the couple out of their embarrassment. Zhang and Feng smiled and nodded, "You must be Enan. She is really a big girl. She looks so much like your mother. I am your uncle and this is your aunt. Your grandpa has bad legs and feet. He will be waiting in the box. I'm here. Your cousin and her husband haven't arrived yet. They just called to say that there's an operation and they're on their way here from the airport. This is Aunt Gao. Hello, thank you for your hard work." Gao Lan handed over the mooncake in his hand. "It's not hard, Enan has been sensible since he was a child. This is a homemade mooncake, not worth much." Zhang and Feng glanced at his wife, and then Lin Yi endured the disgust and stepped forward to take the bag, paused and said politely, "It must be delicious. She won't eat it anyway. This is Miss Zhang, she is indeed an actress standing at the door of our restaurant, she looks so radiant. It's not like Zhang and Feng hasn't dated some starlets when he was out having fun, he's used to seeing pretty faces like that. But this one is really hard to take away." Concerned about his wife beside him, he took a second look and then restrained himself from looking away. "What about that? Everyone, come in. Aunt Gao, be careful of the steps." In today's scene, Su Ling'an is the well-deserved protagonist, and Gao Lan, as the elder, is also surrounded by others. Zhang Lingzi and Su Lei felt one step behind. She turned her head and saw this guy secretly winking at the couple in front of her. She remembered that she had just gotten out of the car and saw him talking to the couple. How long has it been? Su Lei was stunned for a moment before he realized that Miss Zhang was asking him something. He quickly stopped his flying expression and answered honestly, "It didn't take long, less than 10 minutes. "What did you talk to them about?" Zhang Lingzi said and motioned to the front. "It's nothing," Su Lei hummed softly, "I was waiting for you. They advised me to wait somewhere else." Zhang Lingzi immediately understood what had just happened before they arrived. No wonder the couple showed such unnatural expressions the moment they found out who they were. To be honest, she felt a little disappointed now that she saw Zhang Nashuan's eldest son and daughter-in-law in person. The two of them had done a pretty good job on the surface just now, but the disgust in one's eyes when he took the mooncakes, and the greasy and sticky eyes in the other's eyes when he looked over at her, could not escape her eyes. Zhang Nashuan's achievements in calligraphy and painting can't be criticized, but there are many deficiencies in the upbringing of his descendants. And will such a couple really accept Anan as their niece? Although they had only met for a few minutes, there was something hidden in the picture. Zhang Lingzi really felt that it was a bit confusing. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 367. Chapter 367 Exaggerated Enthusiasm. The large box, which can accommodate more than 20 people, has been decorated elegantly and with a touch of warmth. Lin Yi naturally had no intention of arranging additional boxes, but the old man was the supervisor this time. With one order, within 2 hours, the box had completely changed. Lin Yi looked at the layout of her private room that had been designed by a famous designer and had been greatly modified. Even if she was dissatisfied, she could only swallow it silently. The old man cannot afford to offend, this is the common understanding of the Zhang family. Even the most favored Zhang Lingxian, no matter what his nature is, he still has to pretend to be well behaved in front of the old man. But the moment Su Ling'an stepped into the door of the box, Zhang Anfeng and Lin Yi watched helplessly as the old man who had just stood up from the chair performed a big change of face in front of them. That face, which had always been unsmiling, was filled with dense folds of smiles. It was so bright that they even thought that the old man in front of them had changed. Anan is here. This is the sister of the Gao family. Hello, I am Zhang Nashuan, you can just call me Nashuan. Facing Zhang Nashuan's smiling face, Gao Lan hesitated for a moment but did not directly question who was older and who was younger, in case the person in front of him looked older. Compared with the issue of address, she cares more about the other person's attitude. After living for so many years, especially still struggling at the bottom, her eyes can be regarded as seeing all kinds of things in the world. When she was at the entrance of the restaurant, the couple who came to greet them, she saw that behind the surface politeness, they were perfunctory and disdainful towards the gifts she handed over and her as a person. But considering that these two people are just an An's uncle and aunt, I can barely accept it. After all, they were separated by one floor. She had even seen her brother and sister turn against each other over the inheritance of the old man's house. The key lies in an An's grandpa. Now seeing that the other party's welcoming and happy attitude couldn't be fake, her anxious heart also dropped. However, she still couldn't pronounce the name Nashuan, so she still called out the title she had thought of on the way here, Mr. Zhang, you're welcome. I'm very happy for Anan to find her blood relatives. The loss is a loss, but when I think about what happens in the future, this child still has relatives to rely on, the loss becomes a relief. Sister Gao, please stop standing and sit down first. Zhang Nashuan was not at all embarrassed to call Gao Lan's sister who looked younger than him. He just relied on Gao Lan to raise his granddaughter. Let alone sister, she could just call her aunt. Zhang Anfeng and Lin Yugong had just recovered from the thought of the old man can still smile so brightly, and then watched helplessly as the old man invited people to sit down at the main table. The couple had the same expressionless expression on their faces. I really don't know what to do. After inviting people to sit down and pouring a cup of tea with his own hands, Zhang Nashuan looked at the remaining people. When facing Zhang Lingzi, her tone was already very familiar. Miss Zhang and Anan didn't delay today's filming, right? No, I came here after the filming. That's good, that's good. He finally looked at Sule. Is this an An's brother? Sule only felt that the old man in front of him had looked at his whole body with just one glance. He silently recited that he must not embarrass Anan today, straightened his back and replied, hello, old gentleman, I am Sule, and this is Anan, my neighbor's brother. But I grew up with Anan, and Anan is my biological sister in my heart. Okay, Zhang Nashuan reached out and patted his shoulder, with approval in his eyes. Yes, the young man is strong enough. Sule suddenly grinned with big white teeth. Come, sit down, just do whatever you want. The old man personally carried him by the shoulders to his seat. When he was about to sit down, whether intentionally or not, Sule turned around and glanced at An's uncle and aunt who were standing there. Lin Yi received Sule's gaze. I am still standing here, and the little gangster who I almost drove away before has become the old man's guest. Without touching it, she knew that her face would be burning hot right now. Dad, Mom, why are you standing at the door? Zhang Lingxian led his daughter into the door and was about to call out to Grandpa when he saw his parents standing side by side at the door, blocking the door to the private room. Lin Yi heard her daughter's voice and turned around as if she was relieved. She bent down to pick up her granddaughter and hugged her. It's okay. Your cousins are already here. Come in and meet her. These words immediately made Zhang Lingxian swallow back the question he was about to ask, Mom, why are your face so red, and turned his neck slightly to look into the box. The first thing she saw was Zhang Lingzi, who was already seated. After she went back last night, she searched for Zhang Lingzi's information. Now that she saw the real person, her face was even more eye-catching than the pictures and videos she had seen before. The child is right. Then he saw the little girl sitting quietly next to Zhang Lingzi. Is another kind of smart and beautiful. Yesterday, she dug out the photo of her and her little aunt at the bottom of the box, and the face that caught her eye was exactly 70% similar to the little aunt in the photo. I think in a few years, it will be more like it. No wonder Grandpa recognized him at a glance. Though her mind was racing over and over again, she walked over with a smile on her face. This is Anan, she looks so much like my little aunt. Anan, I am your cousin. As soon as Su Ling'an stood up, Zhang Lingxian, who came over, enthusiastically pulled her into his arms and hugged her. Anan, I'm so happy. I never thought that one day I would have such a cute and lovely sister. This enthusiasm really made Su Ling'an a little overwhelmed. He had nowhere to put his hands and responded dryly, I'm very happy too. Zhang Nashuan looked at the scene of the two cousins embracing each other with a face filled with relief. Zhang Lingzi looked around, then picked up the teacup in front of her and took a sip. I can understand that as an elder, who wouldn't want to see such a warm and loving scene. When the cousin who came up and gave him a hug finally let go, Su Ling'an was about to breathe a sigh of relief when he saw the cousin in front of him hand over another black and gold box. When we meet for the first time, I, as a cousin, can't just say nothing. I heard from Grandpa that you are going to college soon, so you probably haven't bought a laptop yet. There are many places where you need to use this thing in college. No. Take it. This. Zhang Nashuan nodded approvingly towards the eldest granddaughter group, and then advised, Anan, the people standing in the box now are all family members. Just take the gift your cousin gave you. Thank you, cousin. Zhang Lingxian took the opportunity and sat down on the seat on the other side of her. At the same time, he waved to his daughter who was looking over, Nanny, come here, this is your Aunt Anan. Su Ling'an. She has grown up now? I don't know, didn't prepare a gift. Zhang Lingxian waved his hand nonchalantly, you are still a student yourself, how can I ask for a gift from you? Zhang Nashuan couldn't see his granddaughter being uncomfortable because of this, and nodded, that's right, she is a 3 or 4-year-old girl who doesn't understand anything. There is no need to prepare gifts. Besides, I didn't tell you in advance that your cousin has a daughter. I just don't want you to bother preparing anything, as long as the people come. The smile on Zhang Lingxuan's face paused, and he lowered his head and looked at his daughter who was running towards the side. Come, let's see if your Aunt Anan is particularly beautiful. Go and let your Aunt Anan hug her. The little girl stepped forward and looked up in the direction her mother was pointing. After hesitating for a moment at the two unfamiliar faces sitting nearby, she reached out to Zhang Lingzi and said, Beautiful aunt, give me a hug. The box was quiet for a moment. Zhang Lingzi put down the teacup in her hand, looked down at the little girl who was waiting for her to hold her arms, picked her up and turned her around half a circle, and corrected her in a cool and clear voice, I admit my mistake, this is your Aunt Anan. Do you recognize it this time? After saying that, she sent him to Su Ling'an's arms and glanced at Zhang Lingxian. This temperament is too bad. Even if you have to pretend, you should pretend it till the end. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 368. Su Ling'an was not stupid. She hugged her little niece who had mistakenly recognized her aunt, and returned her to her mother's arms. She quickly came to her senses. Just now, her cousin could have waited for her daughter to come over and handed it to her aunt with her own hands. However, the other party just pointed in this direction and said something like "very beautiful" that could easily mislead such a young child. The result is that the little girl successfully admitted the wrong person. Perhaps it's because the other party prepared a gift for herself, but she didn't prepare one for the other party's daughter, or maybe it's because of what the old man said just now. In short, the other party should do this to make her feel a little embarrassed and unable to bear the words of a beautiful aunt in the words of a child. She naturally didn't feel any embarrassment. It was obvious to all that she was not as beautiful as Sister Zixi. But the other party's use of a child to vent her anger made her realize that this cousin, who seemed quite enthusiastic when they met, might not be so on the inside. Looking at the box in front of him again, Su Ling'an suppressed the rejection in his heart. It has been collected and cannot be returned. Then it can only be put aside and not used. Zhang Lingxian actually regretted it at this moment. She was used to having things go her way. Now she saw her grandpa treating her differently. Seeing that her granddaughter and great-granddaughter combined were not as good as the newly found Su Ling'an, she felt really unhappy, so. As soon as the daughter came into his arms, she was picked up by her husband. Zhang Lingxian still wanted to rely on his daughter to relieve the embarrassment just now, but when he raised his head, he met her husband's cold eyes and swallowed the words in the end. This is to blame her for using her daughter as a raft. What about that, Mom? Didn't you also prepare gifts for your cousin, and Miss Zhang? Lin Yi received her daughter's look for help and hurriedly cleared her throat and walked over. At present, in their family, only the child Lingxian and his granddaughter can get a good look from the old man. The son-in-law who is a doctor can barely get half of it. The others are waiting to be punished by the old man. Now Su Ling'an is here. Judging from the old man's attitude, this girl is too threatening. We can't let this girl suppress the status of her daughter and granddaughter in front of the old man. Yesterday Lingxian and I went to the mall specifically and chose 2 new bracelets from Jay's house, Lin Yi said and walked up to Su Ling'an, smiling as if she had measured them with a ruler, and took out the bracelets from the jewelry box. Then he directly took one of Su Ling'an's hands to put it on. Su Ling'an was caught off guard by a bracelet on his wrist. She can only say that they are indeed a mother and daughter. But when it came to Zhang Lingzi, facing those beautiful red phoenix eyes that seemed to be smiling but not smiling, Lin Yi did not dare to continue what she had just done. She just handed the jewelry box over. This purple one must look good on Miss Zhang. Zhang Lingzi glanced at the purple crystal bracelet in the opened box. I didn't expect that. I have one too, thank you. I'm glad you did. Regardless of the value of this bracelet, at least in terms of superficial skills, the mother and daughter did a good job. I didn't see that Mr. Zhang, who was sitting opposite, was nodding frequently now. He was obviously very satisfied with the performance of his daughter-in-law and his eldest granddaughter. Okay, it's getting late now, so please take your seats. Annan and Miss Zhang have been busy all day, so they are probably hungry. Xiaolin, tell the kitchen to start serving food. Lin Yi paused as she prepared to sit down, then subconsciously reminded, Dad, Xiaozhou hasn't arrived yet. He sat down to eat when he arrived. Is it possible that so many people are waiting for him, a junior? Who are you waiting for? A slightly panting voice sounded outside the box, causing everyone to look over. Lin Yi was scolded by the old man, and she was a little annoyed when she saw her younger son arriving late. Who else can I wait for? They are all here, so I will wait for you. Zhang Lingzhou put his luggage in the corner, raised his head and met his grandfather's expressionless gaze. He immediately stood upright and asked, "Grandpa, are you in good health?" "It's okay," Zhang Nashuan's face softened. "Okay, sit down, everyone is here now." Now there was only one empty seat left around the table, and Zhang Lingzhou didn't dare to choose. He walked over and sat down obediently. Then he scanned the unfamiliar faces sitting in front of the table without leaving a trace, focusing on a certain direction for a moment, and then stopped for a moment. He shifted his gaze and said, "This must be my sister-in-law's cousin." "Hello, cousin. I am Zhang Lingzhou, your cousin." Su Ling'an nodded politely, "Hello, cousin." Zhang Lingzhou smiled at her, and then he couldn't wait to look next to his cousin. "Who is this? Why does it look familiar to me?" Zhang Lingxian rolled her eyes at her younger brother angrily. As Zhang Lingzhu's biological sister, she knew exactly what kind of breed her younger brother was. Now it seems that he is attracted to Zhang Lingzi. But it's not surprising, after all, she couldn't help but feel jealous even when she saw Zhang Lingzi. "You think she looks familiar because you've seen her on the internet. Miss Zhang is an actress, and she is also recognized as the sister by our cousin Anan." Zhang Lingzhou suddenly had a look on his face. "No wonder. It's true, Mom, you only told me on the phone that my cousin's sister would be coming. Why didn't you tell me more about Miss Jiang's career as an actress?" If he had known that this Miss Jiang was not only an actress but also so beautiful, he would have had to prepare himself properly before stepping into this box. Lin Yi just went out to order the dishes and was complained by her youngest son when she came back. "Damn it, don't think she doesn't know what she's upset about. Cousin Anan, come here, cousin will make you a friend." Su Ling'an looked at Zhang Lingzhou, who handed her the phone despite being separated by several people. After hesitating for a moment, Su Ling'an picked up the phone and scanned it. The next second, the hand holding the phone moved to the side. Zhang Lingzhou grinned shamelessly at Zhang Lingzi, who looked over. "Miss Zhang, let's add some too." Zhang Lingzi could see his plan at a glance. Indeed, in this situation, just adding a friend would not cause a commotion and make both of us uncomfortable. She picked up her phone on the table and scanned it, without any intention of applying for verification. As a result, I was reminded when I was about to put down my phone. Zhang Lingzi. It's quite a thief. The next meal was quite exciting. Su Lei immersed himself in hard work. Zhang Lingzhou hated to meet his cousin Su Ling'an at a late age and started to talk completely, but in 2 of the 3 sentences, he would talk to Zhang Lingzi, who was standing beside him. Zhang Anfeng and Lin Yi were a little blind and did not dare to preach in front of the old man, so they could only eat and sulk at the same time. Zhang Lingxian calmed down his temper and echoed a few words from time to time. Even if his husband was sitting next to him, he would not dare to make any small plans. Zhang Nashuan is working hard to build a good relationship with Gao Lan. Looking at the juniors chatting quite lively, he is in the best mood in the whole box. Zhang Lingzi was having a meal together while casually dealing with Zhang Lingzhou, who was looking for an opportunity to strike up a conversation with Anan. She is now absolutely sure that among all the people with the surname Zhang sitting in this box, Mr. Zhang is the only one who sincerely accepts Anan and sincerely hopes that Anan can integrate into the Zhang family. In the middle of the meal, when talking about school starting in a few days, Zhang Nashuan suddenly remembered something. "By the way, which school should Anan take the exam? Is the school in the imperial capital, or do I have to go to another place to go to school?" If this was local, he could still see his granddaughter from time to time. It would be even better if her granddaughter still had talent in calligraphy and painting. He could teach her for a few more years before leaving. But if you go to school in another place, it will last for 4 years, and you can come back for only 1 year during the winter and summer vacations. If the children have their own affairs to be busy with, then there will not be many opportunities to get along with each other. It is not certain whether he will live another 4 years. This is a big deal for him. In the imperial capital, it's Wada speaking of this, Gao Ian's face was full of pride. I remember that Peking University and Hueda came to my house to rob people, and they wanted Anan to go to their school. Anan chose Hueda by himself. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Yi couldn't help but exclaimed, Beijing University and G University are going to rob people at the same time. Is it true or not? Only the top scorers in the college entrance examination every year get this kind of treatment, right? Could it be a film about Su Ling'an, a thin and frail little girl who can't even afford tutoring classes? This is such a big statement that you don't even have a draft. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 369. Zhang Nashuan, however, had no doubts about these words. Having been chatting with the sister Gao who raised his granddaughter, he can also see that the other person is obviously not an eloquent person, but every word he speaks can make people feel the truth and sincerity in it. The long sentence just now was the longest sentence this person has spoken so far, and the pride and joy in those words all came from the heart. He was about to agree when he turned around and heard a particularly disappointing question from his daughter-in-law. He turned and glared at her, if you can't speak, don't speak. No one will think you are mute. In front of all the juniors, Lin Yi's hand holding the chopsticks paused in the air, and neither put it down nor put it out. How could the old man be so shameless to her in front of so many people? However, she only dared to hide this complaint in her heart and laughed dryly, Dad, this is just too surprising, and I was quick to speak. Gao Lan also looked towards Lin Yi with a slight smile on his face. When he heard her words, he said politely, Ms. Lin is not wrong. Anan is a child who always studies hard. He is among the best in every exam in school. The last time I went to a parent-teacher meeting for her, a group of parents asked her how she taught her children, but this time she actually got the top score in the college entrance examination. Originally I thought it would be the Zhang family who had very good scores in the college entrance examination. This is not just good, it has to be pretty good. At least before this, not to mention the Zhang family's top scorer in the college entrance examination, no one had been admitted to Beijing University or Hueda. The learning genes of the whole family have all gone to the only bloodline that is living outside. Especially Zhang Lingzhou, who failed in the college entrance examination and had to spend money to study abroad. Looking at his little cousin sitting there quietly, at this moment, he suddenly looked like a scumbag looking at a top student. My little cousin is so awesome. Zhang Nashuan couldn't help but glare at his scumbag grandson, as long as you know, learn from your cousin. Compared with the well-behaved and excellent granddaughter, this scumbag grandson is nothing. Faced with an old man who even scared his own father, Zhang Lingzhou naturally did not dare to sing the opposite. He nodded obediently and said, absolutely, from now on, my little cousin will be my role model. Zhang Nashuan then nodded with satisfaction. Lin Yi. Could it be that she really didn't want to say anything now? Did she call her son back just to make her worry? When does the semester start at G? What major does Anan News major in? Su Ling'an received the admission notice earlier than others. After all, he was selected early. After getting the admission notice, Gao Lan read it over and over for more than 10 times before saving it carefully. He could tell the start date on the notice without even thinking, August 26th, it seems to be earlier than other universities 2 days. I am studying computer science. Su Ling'an, who was about to reply but was overtaken by her grandmother, nodded. There are not many days left. I thought it was September 1st like other universities, Zhang Nashuan said and looked at his granddaughter, but why doesn't Anan want to major in computer science? Looking at the girl's quiet and reserved personality, he thought she was studying liberal arts. This major is more useful to me. Zhang Nashuan was taken aback by this answer. He thought he would get answers such as liking and interest, but he didn't expect that it was because it was useful. After reacting, I felt sad again. If this child could live with me since he was a child, he could choose the direction he likes now instead of choosing a major that is more useful and easier to find a job after graduation. Zhang Anfeng could see the distress flashing across the old man's face, and couldn't help but shudder in his heart. He smiled and said, "Anan chose this major well. Nowadays, major companies have a huge talent gap for this major. After graduation, Anan can consider coming. My uncle's company needs talents like you in the information department. Since you can get the top score in the college entrance examination, then the fertilizer should flow to your own fields." Su Lingyan pursed his lips in embarrassment. "Actually, I plan to form my own team after I finish my studies." Oh, Zhang Nashuan was just thinking that his son's proposal was a good one, and that he was starting to like his company, which he didn't like very much. When he heard his granddaughter's polite rejection, he suddenly became curious, and wants to set up a company. What kind of team? I want to make a system that can rely on computer networks to find people, Su Lingyan said, a little embarrassed, but it's just a hypothesis at the moment. Looking for someone, Zhang Nashuan immediately thought of his youngest daughter, but soon he thought of Sister Gao, who had picked up her granddaughter, her daughter who had been missing for many years. I felt a sudden emotion in my heart. This is a good idea. You girl, you are really thoughtful. Grandpa supports you with both hands. However, Grandpa doesn't know much about computers, but Grandpa guesses that what you want to do will definitely require a lot of financial support. Don't be polite to Grandpa at that time. Everything Grandpa has is yours. If you want to be polite to Grandpa, I will be angry." He pretended to be so fierce that he threatened him. Su Lingyan glanced at him and nodded subconsciously. "Originally, I just planned to sell the cheap niece a good deal in front of the old man, so that the old man could give me more smiles and satisfaction, but I didn't expect that it would evolve into the current development." Zhang Anfeng said. To be honest, he can't even laugh anymore. "Master, what you have belongs to your granddaughter, so what does he mean by his biological son?" He has been wanting to hear this sentence for more than 10 years. Now he finally heard it, but it was not said to him. Can there be anything more tragic than this in the world? Lin Yi and Zhang Lingxian were also a little unable to laugh. They have been waiting for this in their dreams. Now it seems that the importance the old man attaches to a granddaughter like Su Lingyan is no longer beyond their expectations. It is simply unbelievable to them. Now that they even say that they want to leave everything they have to Su Lingyan, their granddaughter, what about them? When the old man said this, did he think about the other Zhang family members sitting at the dinner table? But no one dared to really say these words. How can a filial son and a virtuous grandson be willing to tear off his face in front of everyone after pretending to be a filial son for a long time? The food that was originally quite delicious was now completely tasteless. Zhang Lingzi also stopped using her chopsticks. She didn't think the food was unpalatable, but she saw that Mr. Zhang was really so happy that he couldn't bear it. Isn't it great to see that her eldest son's family's faces were so bright? She lost her appetite when she looked at the few masked faces that were still trying to smile even though they were full of dissatisfaction. But the critical attack is yet to come. Zhang Nashuan didn't notice anything strange about his eldest son's family at all, and continued to speak with great interest. Anan has already been to the museum and knows the way. I asked Zhang Ye to find someone to clean up the second wing of the museum in the past 2 days. We've rearranged it a bit. Can Anan come and stay here when you have time to keep me company, a lonely old man? Su Lingyan was shocked by the words lonely and lonely. Before he could recover, he heard the crisp sound of a spoon being thrown into the bowl next to him. Zhang Lingxian took a deep breath, pressed his hand on the table and stood up. It's a little boring, I'm going to go out and get some fresh air. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, X. Press 11. Chapter 370. Qian Yishan hugged his daughter, who was startled by her mother's sudden movement, and turned to look at his wife's back as she walked out of the box. I couldn't help but sigh in my heart. He could more or less guess some of the reasons why Ling Xian suddenly lost his composure. Since the death of Mrs. Nalan, the old man has almost regarded the backyard of the museum as his home, and he rarely even goes back to the old house. In his opinion, the land in the backyard of the museum has been regarded by the old man as a pure land that belongs only to him. Even his own son and granddaughter can only sit and eat after going there. As for staying the night, it's a no-brainer. Even Ling Xian is no exception. Now he has no hesitation in setting up a separate room for his lost granddaughter. This preference is indeed a bit shocking. But if he thinks about it carefully, he can understand it. Although he didn't know much about his wife's aunt's past, the old man had felt guilty about his little daughter for so many years, and now he had all moved on to his daughter, so it was understandable that he did these things that broke the rules. Ling Xian obviously couldn't accept it for a while. But this kind of thing can only be figured out by herself. Zhang Lingxuan's movement was a bit loud. Not only Su Ling'an was shocked, but Zhang Lingzi, who was sitting on the other side of Su Ling'an, also took a look. When she looked away, she glanced at Zhang Lingxuan's husband, a doctor. As for who has the lowest sense of presence in this box, she feels that it is not even Su Lei, who only knows how to bury his head in pain, but this one. Compared to several Zhang family members here except Mr. Zhang, in her opinion, this son-in-law of the Zhang family may be the one who sees things most clearly and thinks most thoroughly. I don't know how these two people got together. Qian Yishan noticed Zhang Lingzi's glance and was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Upon seeing this, Zhang Lingzi nodded slightly in response and looked away. Her purpose of accompanying Su Ling'an this time has been achieved. Next, she only needs to watch Mr. Zhang and his family hold their breath silently while waiting quietly for the recognition banquet to end. Qian Yishan held her daughter in her arms and sighed in her heart. I only looked at the words of the girl Zhang before. What he thought of at the time was that the heart was magnificent. Now that I see him in person, I am even more amazed. It's not just about the simple appearance, but the stability and composure of the other person. The other party deliberately kept a low profile and did not intend to overwhelm the guest, but in terms of the aura around him, it was no worse than the old man. I don't know how he managed to develop such a Yuanting Yuji aura. It's a pity that the father-in-law, mother-in-law, and even the wife and brother-in-law are all immersed in dissatisfaction with the old man's preference for his granddaughter, or they are just coveting the appearance of this girl Zhang, and they have not sincerely made friends with this girl, and the old man is wasted. I also made a special reminder before. Really, he didn't even know what to say. Haha, it's settled then. Seeing his granddaughter nodding, Zhang Nashuan smiled and nodded before she could say anything, and must tell Grandpa when school starts, most of my body will be buried in the ground. I have never experienced sending my grandson to a university to report, but this time I have the opportunity. After saying that, he glanced at his grandson who had not even been admitted to a domestic university. Zhang Lingzhou. When my sister was admitted to college, I didn't see you always so happy to send her off. But this time her sister was not in the box, so he was the only one who was despised. Asterisk. Zhang Lingxian went out from the box. He wanted to take a breath in the landscape pool, but the more he breathed, the more he couldn't help but compare the difference between his grandpa's feelings for Su Ling'an and her, his granddaughter, and he couldn't help but think about whether he was not in the box. During the time, Grandpa would say favorite words again, and his anger became more and more depressed. Just turn around and walk back. Oops. The two people who were caught off guard couldn't help but take a step back. Behind Zhang Lingxian was the landscape pool. When he stepped back, he almost fell into the landscape pool on his back. A strong hand stretched out to hold his arm, and then he barely stabilized his body. Thank you. After standing firm, Zhang Lingxian looked up at the person holding him, his eyes widened a bit. Chen Rui. Are you okay? Chen Rui let go of his hand and kicked his reckless brother. Why don't you apologize to your sister Lingxian for being so reckless? Chen Ju still had several bruises on his face that didn't dissipate. He changed his usual arrogance in front of his brother and didn't dare to make any mistakes. He bowed obediently to Zhang Lingxian with one swollen eye. I'm sorry, Sister Lingxian, I just said I was too busy thinking about the road. Zhang Lingxian looked at his face that looked like a pallet, and his anger, which had been lowered by 2 points because of Chen Rui, dropped by more than half again. You were beaten. Why were you beaten so hard? Due to any grudge? Chen Rui's eyebrows moved, thinking that Zhang Lingxian was the granddaughter of Zhang Nashuan, a master of calligraphy and painting. His heart changed, and he sighed helplessly. It's a long story, but if this kid shows mercy at all times, if the girl's parents find out, why? I was so angry that I gave him a good beating. This just frightened you, Lingxian. Really, I don't even know what to say to him. Let's do this some other time. Lingxian, you must show your respect. After graduating from college, we each went back to work in our companies to help each other, and we haven't seen each other for a long time. Zhang Lingxian was a little envious of Chen Rui. Although her father doted on her, she worked smoothly in the family company after graduation. But at the same time, she also knew very well that no matter how well she did, her father would still prefer her brother to take over the company in the future. Unlike Chen Rui, he has now officially taken over the power of the Chen family and has become the master of the Chen family. Before, she could rely on her grandfather's favor and felt that she was no less than a younger brother. But now, Grandpa has a granddaughter whom he loves even more, and she is almost losing even this advantage. Why should Su Ling'an become the last among the third generation of the Zhang family? In addition, she and Chen Rui both have a younger brother who is not very serious about his job but is also lustful, and they suddenly feel a little more sympathetic to each other. Faced with the invitation, Zhang Lingxian hesitated for less than a second before nodding in agreement. Although Chen used to be a winemaker, now in the hands of Chen Rui, he has also begun to be involved in other industries. I heard that there are also some calligraphy and painting businesses that are doing very well. Talk to her art company and maybe we can work out some cooperation. Without her grandfather's preference, she had to find a way to gain more power in the company so that she could feel more balanced. Okay, let's get in touch then. After they separated, Chen Ju looked at his eldest brother in confusion. Brother, why do you want to invite Zhang Lingxian to dinner? I remembered correctly that she is already married and has a daughter. Chen Rui's face turned dark when he heard this, and in the end he couldn't help but hit his idiot brother the head. You have such a pig brain, no wonder you can be plotted by that Lin Nyo. You forgot that Zhang Lingxuan's grandfather is who is it? It's Zhang Nashuan, Chen Ju answered, his eyes brightening. Brother, do you want Mr. Zhang to speak for me through Zhang Lingxian? How can the program crew of national television be so easy to bribe? Even your brother and I don't have much confidence. Anyway, when we enter the box later, you will remember 2 words for me: be humble and talk less. If this road doesn't work, Zhang Lingxuan's side is also away. If Mr. Zhang can help me with a word, it will be better than 100 words from others. Chen Ju nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. At first, after his brother knew what stupid thing he had done, he planned to pack him up and throw him abroad. But in the end, he still couldn't bear to part with the career and reputation he had built in the past few years. If he left, even if he could come back in a few years, but the account and everything are all gone. After begging for a long time, he finally persuaded his brother to help him clean up the mess, but he didn't dare to let it slip again. Brother, don't worry if you ask me to go east, I will never go west. If you ask me to chase away dogs, I will never catch chickens. Chen Rui took a deep breath and pinched the bridge of his nose. If this guy hadn't been entrusted to be his biological brother, he's really not sure he could tolerate such a stupid thing hanging around in front of his eyes. Shut up. Asterisk. Zhang Lingxian returned to the box and sat back in his seat. Only her husband handed her a bowl of hot seafood porridge. Everyone else was still talking around Su Linggan, including her parents. She picked up a spoon and stirred the porridge in the bowl, and her desire to cooperate with Chen Rui became even more urgent. She wants to fight for her grandfather's favor. She also wants the authority of the company. She, Zhang Lingxian, does not even have the word admit defeat in the dictionary.